You've just had cosmetic surgery, or maybe you're planning to, and you're probably thinking that waking up from anesthesia is the finish line. Like the hard part's over, right? Well, actually, scratch that. That moment, it's really just the starting line. Today, we're going to reframe your entire post op recovery. It's not just a waiting game, it's this super active, dynamic quest to actually achieve those smooth, beautiful, and completely functional results you've been dreaming of.
Okay, let's dive into this because what really happens under your skin after surgery is literally the key to everything. In this recovery journey, the surgery itself is just the inciting incident. Underneath the surface, your body isn't just taking a nap. It is going into absolute overdrive, rapidly responding to what just happened. And, understanding this hidden world, that is exactly what separates a really frustrating recovery from a wildly successful one. Chapter 1, the post-op healing journey. So, the ultimate goal of this entire process is perfectly healed, aesthetically beautiful, and fully functional tissue. But to get there, your body has to go through this incredibly complex tissue remodeling phase. It is literally rebuilding you from the inside out. And all that rebuilding, it happens on a microscopic battlefield known as the extracellular matrix. Right after surgery, this area can get totally flooded with stagnant, protein-rich lymph fluid. Now, if this fluid just sits there doing nothing, it acts like a dangerous chemical alarm bell. It essentially tricks your body into panicking and laying down way too much scar tissue. So keeping this matrix clear, that is your first major mission. But hey, every epic story needs its villains, right? Chapter 2, the villains, fibrosis and seromas. These are the primary bad guys that directly threaten to ruin your aesthetic results with permanent contour irregularities. Let's meet villain number 1, fibrosis. Think of fibrosis as this monster that builds thick, restrictive walls right under your skin. Technically, it's the pathological overproduction of collagen fibers at the surgical site. When this kicks in, you don't get that smooth contour you paid for. Instead, you get localized hardness, these really stubborn lumps, and restricted movement that can frankly feel super tight and painful. Now, what's really interesting is how our second villain operates. A seroma doesn't build walls. It kind of hides in the shadows. When you have a major procedure, like an abdominoplasty, for example, it creates this dead space under the skin. A seroma is essentially a localized pocket of clear fluid that sneakily fills up those empty spaces left behind, creating these really annoying unwanted bulges. Now, we definitely need to distinguish between your standard generalized edema, which is just normal, run-of-the-mill surgical swelling, and these seromas. Normal swelling, that's something consistent manual lymphatic drainage can easily help your body reabsorb. Easy peasy. But large encapsulated seromas, those are heavily armored complications. They often require medical aspiration, which means your surgeon literally has to go in and extract the fluid. This is exactly why a specialized therapist will monitor those areas like a hawk to make sure you get the right help at the exact right time. Which brings us to Chapter 3, the critical remodeling window. This is the absolute climax of your recovery story. It's the precise moment when your body makes a permanent decision about exactly how it's going to heal. This is make or break, folks. Let's walk through the timeline here. On day 1, inflammatory fluid rushes in just to protect the area, standard response. But pay close attention to that 2 to 3 week mark. This is when that initial fluid begins to thicken up, and your body starts actively organizing new collagen. If the area isn't properly drained right then and there, those unmanaged fibers, they will mature into thick, fibrotic bands down the road. You absolutely have to use specialized manual techniques during this specific window to soften those bands and keep your tissue completely pliable. So the absolute crucial point here is that prevention is everything. It's much easier to prevent fibrosis than it is to resolve it once the tissue is fully matured. Honestly, truer words have never been spoken. You need a proactive, totally consistent defense during that critical remodeling window. Booking your post-op recovery sessions to perfectly align with this specific time frame, that is, hands down, your very best strategy. And of course, just when you think you've got everything under control, we hit a surprise boss battle. Chapter 4, Battling the Texas Heat. If you're recovering in certain sweltering climates, Mother Nature herself decides to throw a massive wrench into your healing process. The invisible threat we're talking about is vasodilation, completely driven by intense heat and humidity. These physiological challenges are incredibly frustrating because, you might be weeks into your recovery feeling great, thinking you're totally out of the woods, and then, bam, you swell up all over again. Unbelievable, right? So let's break down exactly how this climate attacks the healing process. Extreme heat literally causes your blood vessels to widen. That's the vasodilation part. And when they widen, they leak a whole lot more fluid right into the surrounding tissues. Add some thick humidity to the mix, and you are looking at a sudden, massive increase in swelling. This makes the tissue remodeling phase so much harder because your body is suddenly forced to fight off a brand new flood of fluid. But hey, do not panic. Welcome to Chapter 5, your recovery toolkit. This is where we break out the actionable, everyday strategies you need to defeat these complications, survive the heat wave, and guarantee a beautifully smooth outcome. And this brilliantly illustrates your ultimate defense strategy. It's essentially a combination of daily habits that form an invisible shield around your results. Drinking plenty of water, that flushes out those dangerous inflammatory proteins. Watching your diet by keeping sodium low, that stops water retention dead in its tracks during a heat wave. You also want to avoid alcohol completely. Get plenty of rest, strictly follow your surgeon's exact protocol, and, for sure, book consistent lymphatic massages. Combine all those together, and you completely change the trajectory of your healing. Now, I need you to lean in and listen carefully to this next point because it is a real game changer. Quality compression. You cannot, I repeat, cannot settle for cheap Amazon substitutes. I am super passionate about this because a low-quality, flimsy garment will absolutely not save you from the swelling of the Texas heat, and it definitely won't protect you from fibrosis. Your fascia is basically your ultimate armor, and the fit has to be absolutely flawless. Step 1. It must provide an entirely equal amount of pressure across every single part of the body. Step 2. It needs to give you adequate support without cutting off your circulation, especially when a temperature spike causes you to suddenly swell up. And Step 3. The pressure must never, ever restrict your lymphatic nodes. If your nodes get restricted, all that fluid literally has nowhere to drain, and those complications, they're going to win. To navigate all of this safely, you really need a trusted, specialized guide. And that is where Lymph in Motion comes in. They specialize not just in cosmetic post-op recovery, but also in chronic swelling conditions like lymphedema and lipedema. By combining clinical manual drainage with their deep, specialized expertise, they know exactly how to guide your body safely through that super critical remodeling window. If you're ready to secure those clinical manual drainage sessions and actively protect the results you just invested so much time and money into, you really need to reach out. You can call Chris at Lymph in Motion to book your appointment. That number is 512-817-3008. Seriously, do not leave your aesthetic outcome to chance. Give them a call. So, what does this all mean for you? Well, I want to leave you with one final, empowering question. Are you actively listening to your surgeon and your body? Or are you just sitting back and waiting to heal? Remember, beating fibrosis is not a passive waiting game. It's an incredibly active journey. So, take control of your recovery toolkit, defend your results, and go claim the beautiful outcome you entirely deserve.